My name is Dana Herbert, celebrity cake designer and owner of Desserts by Dana. You know, a lot of people, they come into the shop and, they buy these beautiful wedding cakes and no one really knows why or how this thing really got started. So I'm gonna break it down for you really quickly. Back in the day, sugar was expensive. Sugar was one of those things that was reserved for the rich and the wealthy. So people had to kind of do some other things. So in Rome, it was literally just flour, water, some salt. It was normally made out of wheat or barley, and they made this bread. And the groom would actually take the bread, he'd break it over the bride's head, which was one, a symbol of his dominance, but two, it was also a symbol that he was going to take her virginity. Now, in England, they stepped it up a notch and they actually did sweet rolls. So they incorporated just a pinch of sugar and they piled them really high, and the bride and groom, they had to basically kiss over top of this. And if they did so successfully without knocking it down, then they knew that their marriage would be fruitful. Now, the rumor has it that a French chef went to England and saw this tradition, and he wanted to take it a step further. And so he kind of developed the wedding cakes that we know today, how you see them stacked and tiered and the icing on the outside and so forth. Now, in the old days, like I said, sugar was very expensive. It also makes the cake a lot heavier. So cakes actually were only real at the bottom, and everything above that was fake. So it was either something made out of sugar, or it was like pulled or blown or something like that, but it was definitely fake at the top. Now, cakes, they didn't really become stacked and tiered until the late 1800s. That's when people figured out how to actually engineer the cake and keep it from falling. So late 1800s is when you kind of start to see some of the cakes that maybe your grandmom had or something like that. They start to become a little more prevalent because they've taken on that style. You start to see columns maybe 20 years later. So now you're into the 1900s, the early 1900s, and you're starting to see these columns starting to appear in the cake. So I know all of you know, looking at your mom and dads and your grandmom and grandpas, you see all these cakes with columns. That's where that came from. Now, the cakes were white because, again, A, that was a symbol of wealth. B, it was a symbol of purity, and the whiter your cake, the better it was. So that's why you always saw the all-white cakes with the white frosting. It started way back in the early days from the Romans, the English, the French. All-white cake meant you had it going on. So the all-white cake still remains today.